Hey, this is Steven with KiwiboxDotCom. Right now I'm talking with Noah. How you feeling today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good. So let's talk about Human Geometry. It's your forthcoming debut. How'd you come up with the title for this one?
Human Geometry, okay, so the album sort of theme is that everything that you experience in your life shapes the way your life is up, but at the same time you have the power to shape your own life. So at the very basic thinking, the shape thing inspired the title. But I actually came up with the title when I was making tea one day, and I burned my hand on the kettle, and it made a perfect circle on my hand, and I looked at it and was like, wait a second, that's the title of my album.
It's a song.
So I came up with the album name. It kind of by accident, but it also made perfect sense. So.
All right, cool. So let's talk about the music a little bit. What should listeners expect to hear on this album?
They should expect to hear, it's dance music, it's fun, it's pop, it's electro, but it's got some real subject matter behind it. So you can dance, you can have a good time at the same time. So you can definitely think while you're dancing. So intelligent dance music.
Okay. So there's a lot of digital effects on your songs, obviously, but especially on the vocals. How come you choose to kind of shroud your voice in electronics instead of going au natural, so to speak?
What we did actually is we tried to get a good balance in between super digital things and really organic things, because first of all, the way I wrote everything was the old-fashioned way, because I have, I don't remember, but I have classical piano training and a couple of years of voice training as well. So I didn't want to just completely abandon all of that and just make like a purely like current electronic album. And so when I wrote everything at my piano, which is like, the old-fashioned way. And I, like, from that, I moved on to, putting everything on the computer, but I didn't necessarily set out to make an electronic album or a dance album. I just sort of wrote the songs, and they took their own shape. So, with some of the songs that you've heard, I'm sure, have the electronic or digital altered voice, but there are a couple of songs on there that don't have any sort of effects or anything on the voice. And we try to include real instruments as well. So it's not just synthesizers. There's samples of like pianos and samples of like violins and that kind of stuff. So we are trying to my producer Monsieur Adi and I try to approach dance and electronic music from an organic point of view, because that's our background. Like our background, we didn't study dance music. We studied I sang in choirs and studied classical piano. So that's sort of a different way of approaching dance music, we think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you worked with Monsieur Adi on the album. How did you two work with one another? From what I understand, it was kind of like an electronic postal service-esque kind of thing.
It is. It's very it's a very interesting way of working. I'm not sure that I would do it again, but do it again that way, just because now that I've worked on it, I sort of know. And this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. This is a completely new way of approaching it. But everything was done over email, internet kind of thing. So I would go into the studio and record like my vocals, and I would get the instruments, like I would do the MIDI sequencing and that kind of stuff, and then I would ship everything over to him over the internet, and then he would sort of assemble things and add filters or beef things up, or like he'd say maybe add this instrument and things like that. So it was a back and forth kind of instead of him sitting right there and telling me to do stuff, we would do it over MSN. So
cool. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about Mannequin. There's a very heavy kind of Basement Jaxx, Daft Punk-ish influence. Are those people that you would count as influence?
Definitely. I mean, Daft Punk is like, they're gods in the dance electronic thing, because they were able to do, pop music, but it wasn't pop music the way everyone else was doing pop music. They were just making music that they liked, and I remember when I first heard them and like showing them to my friends, they're like, "What is this disco you're listening to?" But then it was so much more than just disco. And they, Daft Punk, like across the board, Monsieur Adi and I are big Daft Punk fans and supporters, and maybe we could work with them one day. You never know.
Yeah.
But But yeah, definitely Daft Punk is a big. The whole French sort of movement. There's Stuart Price and Daft Punk and Justice and stuff now, and so it's very. We have a big European influence going through us. And I grew up in. I was born in Dubai, and I was raised in Abu Dhabi. So the musical taste of the Middle East is very, very European. So I didn't realize how European it was until I came to North America, but it definitely is. Very much a European background.
Well, having been raised in Dubai and lived there for a short while, when did you first discover electronic music and kind of get involved in kind of educating yourself in that whole scene?
That's an interesting question, because I don't think I was ever sort of like, because I was always aware of various, because I have a very, like, my family is very musical, and I was exposed to all kinds of music. Like, my dad's a big Beatles fan, and then we had a lot of, like, there was always classical music, musical theater, and pop, everything playing. Listened to the radio a lot, and I'm also a child of the '80s. So even if I didn't necessarily know when I was 10 that I liked electronic or like dance music, I grew up on like Prince and Michael Jackson and Madonna and like all that kind of '80s stuff. So in the back of my mind, I always did like that kind of dance music. Then I think like probably the mid '90s when I started hearing Daft Punk like on the radio, and I realized this is something that's very interesting. And then I responded to dance music, to electronic music very well, because it was so lush and it was so almost orchestral and almost like very like grand and classical, almost like if you break everything down, it's like you could essentially translate everything into like an arrangement for an orchestra to play, and it would be amazing. So that sort of drew me to it because of my traditional background. I could see that it wasn't that there were certain artists out there, i.e. Daft Punk, who were doing dance music that wasn't mindless, and they weren't just like turning out mindless hits and mindless lyrics. So that's sort of when I started really liking dance music, and then over time, I like found out about producers and that kind of. It just sort of happened organically. I didn't sort of like set out to, like, I need to learn about electronic music.
Okay, cool. So let's just talk about the future, I guess. Is there a video planned for Mannequin? What else is?
We're gonna do something cool with the Mannequin video. I can't give it away just yet, but there'll be an announcement soon, probably on my MySpace or so.
All right. What about?
Yeah, we're gonna do some cool things. I have a show coming up on the 23rd, and that's here in Ottawa, 23rd of March. And that'll be sort of my first chance to sort of get my feet wet and actually perform the music. I think it's gonna be my first show, actually. Yeah, it's gonna be the first show.
Interesting. Are you gonna have a full backing band, something like that?
How we're doing it is and that's sort of the hard part, is everything was sort of done, on the computer, or like, with two people. So now we sort of have to approach the live show in a backwards way and translate everything. So what we're doing is we're having this, like, the synthesizers and the samples and all the kind of effects and things like and they were going to sort of be played out by a laptop. And then I have a guitarist and I have a bassist who are phenomenal, and they're doing a great job. And then I have all my live singing. So
very cool.
That's how we're doing it. So it's not a big setup band-wise, but I think it works a little bit more. It works a little bit better because the things that aren't guitar and bass and vocals they have to be very precise. So it's almost better to not have 5 people playing keyboards. So
cool. Well, before I let you go, is there anything else that listeners or readers should know about before Human Geometry comes out, maybe about who you are as an artist, something like that?
I mean, first of all, I have to thank everyone who's been so good so far, and I'm doing pretty okay on iTunes and with you and stuff. But I need people to keep going to myspace.com/NoXmusic, and you can follow me on Twitter. It's the same, NoXmusic, and I'll be making lots of announcements, and we're going to do tons of shows and all that kind of cool stuff soon. And go out and get the album. The album's going to be out in the summer. But Mannequin is on March 10th, and come out and see me. And I'd love to meet, and I also would love to hear people's ideas for things, because I'm a very I like people to get involved, and the creative process has to be sort of like it would be no fun if I just sort of sat in a room and did everything on my own. So I'd love to hear if anyone has any ideas for videos and that kind of stuff. So, definitely contact me.
Very cool. Well, Noah, thank you so much again for talking with me today. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it.